Hello, friends. Welcome to the Veterinary Life Coach Podcast. Today's wonderful guest is Hailey Coleman. She's widely known as the Psychic Nervous System Coach. Hailey is a trauma-informed intuitive coach who blends somatic nervous system regulation, emotional clarity work, and psychic insight to help overwhelmed women and high-achieving adults move from stress, anxiety, and survival mode into deep calm, confidence, and direction. She has a background in mental health education, addiction awareness, and high performance coaching. And she spent years supporting individuals, families, and communities through stress, burnout, trauma recovery, and major life transitions. Hailey's unique work bridges science and spirituality, helping clients regulate their bodies, reconnect to their intuition, and make aligned decisions that actually change their lives. She designed a signature 12-week process called Self-Healing Hub, which hopefully she'll tell us a little bit about. And she's here today to talk about how stress blocks intuition, how the nervous system influences our purpose, and how we can all reclaim a calm, grounded version of ourselves, even in the middle of chaos. And veterinarians experience a lot of chaos. Welcome to the show, Hailey. I'm delighted to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. We're going to learn a lot, I think. All of this
Yeah,
stuff applies to what I do. So I always ask every guest when we start the podcast to tell me their story. So could you kind of give us a little background?
absolutely. So I have three kids, single mom, uh, full-time single mom, which is incredible. And when I was going through a rock bottom moment, I had a partner who was emotionally abusive, chronic cheater, chronic liar. Swear they're a little bit of a psychopath, to be honest. Narcissist, you name it, and it was hell. I had never experienced anxiety in my life during this relationship, and it started wreaking havoc on my body. And I never really thought at that point, like, I thought it was hormones. I thought it was my periods were messed up. I thought maybe I was in perimenopause. So I went down the rabbit hole of hormone testing and trying different birth controls. And that made me have panic attacks because too much hormones can give you panic attacks. And so I didn't know that either. Went down that rabbit hole. And then I came across a doctor, and they were like, "You're having panic attacks." Because I did like the heart monitor thing. I was like, there's something medically wrong with me. Like, it can't be my environment. It can't be that shitty partner. There's got to be something wrong with my body.
Yeah, you think it's a physical thing when it's really emotional.
Yeah. And also, the partner blamed it on my body. Like, it can't be them
Of
at
course.
all, right? Like, yeah, it's got to be a you thing. So, of course, I go through all the medical stuff, all the testing. Everything comes back great. And they're like, it's panic attacks. So then I start diving into, well, how can I handle this new panic attack scene with three kids around me? Where like I didn't want to go on medicine. I did do a serotonin inhibitor for 6 months, and it made me feel so numb. Like I like felt nothing. I was like stone cold. Yeah, it took my panic attacks away, but I was like, this isn't for me.
Yeah, I've heard
Weaned
that from
my
other people.
Right, yeah, I've heard a
Mhm.
lot of stories about. I'm not
Yeah,
against medicine at all. Like
yeah.
sometimes you need it to quiet the noise in order to like truly start the process. Yeah, weaned myself off and I dove right into holistic stuff, studying ancient breath work, studying cognitive behavioral therapy, studying different ways of movement, Kundalini yoga to like truly move the energy and understand our nervous system biologically. Because if it was so, everything that I was doing in the medical world and in the psych world and like going to therapy and doing all the things and like nothing was working. I was still having panic attacks. So that tells me that something's not functioning fully in my body, and I just dove right into it. Um, and it led me to here. I decided to quit corporate and start my own business. And I am a holistic coach that specializes in nervous system regulation. And my clients are anywhere from mental health, chronic issues, chronic stress, relationship, and addictions. So and heavy trauma. A lot of my clients come from trauma. And it's fascinating how learning how to regulate your nervous system, like literally within 1 to 3 minutes a day, and changing the environment, which we can get into, um, can fix all those things. Like it blows my mind that it's so simple, yet our society pushes so much medical that like we need to just talk about it more.
Yeah, well, do you think some of it is just the awareness? Because I went through something like that too, where I was having physical symptoms, but it really wasn't physical. And you go from doctor to doctor, and they're like, "There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with you." And then when you finally get this like light bulb over your head that says, "Oh, this is anxiety. This isn't anything but," and then you work that puzzle out, it's fascinating because it's almost like just the awareness that it's not physical helps you start to unravel it. Is that what you find?
Definitely. Like the moment I checked off every single other box you could check off and
You ran out
everything
of
was
doctors.
negative, really, I was like, it's got to be something that I can change on my own. Like it's got to be something that's embedded in my system where like something's triggering it every day. And what is it?
Yeah. And when you made that discovery, did you automatically discover that there was some sort of trauma involved, or were those two separate things that you experienced?
Um, So what I like to do with myself as well as my clients is we reflect and go back to like when were you your best self? When
Mm,
were you your happiest self? What did your environment look like? When I say environment, I don't mean just your living space. I mean people, place, things, career, hobbies. Like what was your world like? Um, who did you have in your world? And then compare that to the now where you're struggling, and it's like what's the difference here? Is it the
okay.
people? Is it your hobbies? Is it your lack of hobbies? Is it your schedule? Is it the way you're treating your body? Is it your lack of sleep, food, whatever? Like what is it, right? And we get to that. um, Once you figure that out, then it's very quick to realize that it really didn't come from anything other than what you've taken into your world. And the trauma, like, yeah, a lot of my clients have childhood trauma, but our brain blocks it. So like when you start working on nervous system work, we unravel that too, and it just heals those pieces along the way. But people can get triggered as they're healing, and it's a beautiful thing because you can just work through that trigger, but you need to understand how and why.
Is the message also that once you decide that you want to change it, that it's all within your power to do so? Or how do you teach that? Like the actual, I
Um,
guess, getting the help and changing what you're trying to change. I don't know if that's a good question or not. It
no,
sounds
it
kind of weird.
is. It totally is. It's like the moment you decide that like something's not right, I am not the best version of me. What is it?
Right.
And we find out what it is. Then the next steps are I work with you to gain your confidence and your courage and set boundaries and implement the things, tools in your life so that you can either change the environment or change the thing that's bothering you, um, or have stronger boundaries within yourself and your environment, people, place, thing, so that you feel more in control and they do not control you.
So it's more about getting a handle on what's going on specifically for the individual, environmentally and emotionally, and then trying to work that out to figure out what changes you need to make to start to feel better.
Absolutely.
Am I
So it's
saying that
like
correctly?
whether you're a high achiever and you have no childhood trauma, or you've had childhood trauma and you're struggling, the biggest thing is like, how do we get you to your best self, and being able to control your own environment no matter what your situation is. And once you are able to control your own environment so that you're living in more of a calm energy or a pleasure versus pressure mode every day, you're actually, all your symptoms usually dissipate. It's pretty neat to watch. It's like once, how do I say it? It's like once you know what it is, the what ifs kind of start to go away. The symptoms kind of start to go away.
Yeah, I find that too. I find that when I'm coaching people that once you kind of understand yourself better, some of that, it's almost like you thinking that there's something wrong with you is
Hmm.
part of the trauma response. And once you say, "Oh, this is like just the way my brain's working right now, and this is what people do, and now I can control that," then you start to feel better automatically almost. Is that
Yeah, because our
kind of how
brain
it
is
works?
wired to find the problem so
Right.
that the problem can be solved.
Yeah.
So, and it's really interesting the fact that your brain just works in that way, and it also works in a way of, if it's scary or harming your body, it's going to block it. And it just shuts everything else down so that your body can function. So,
Right.
being able to understand why you're feeling that way, almost immediately a lot of the symptoms go away. It's really cool.
Right. Yeah, it is very cool. So you said, well, I said in the introduction that you talk about how stress can block your intuition.
Hmm.
You say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so that goes hand in hand with like survival mode, right? So when we are chronically stressed, and you might not even know you're stressed,
Right.
you will start getting little symptoms, or you still start, sleep will be off, or your body weight will be off, or your nutrition will be off, like any little thing, heart palpitations, you get little things.
Mhm.
If you're not recognizing that, it gets louder and louder and louder until you have to recognize it. And at that point, you might not even realize it yet, but your body is in such a chronic state that your brain shuts certain parts of it off so that it can function. Your brain knows it needs to breathe. Your brain knows it needs to move. It needs to speak. It needs to see, like all your senses. It needs a heart rate beat. Like it shuts everything else off in order to survive in a human form. And I know that sounds weird. I'm trying to make it understanding for everyone, but like it will block everything extra off. The creativity, the intuition, all the things,
Just trying to keep you safe,
just
basically.
so that your body can function.
Function. Yeah.
So there's physically no way that you can have those extra parts of you functioning if you're in a chronic state, because our brain just doesn't allow it, which is so neat to have, like that understanding that our brain will just do what it needs to do in order for our human form to like keep moving every day. Um, But people will notice, like, oh, I haven't been creative in a while. I have no desire to do that, or my language is off, or I can't finish sentences, or um, I'm disassociated. I'm not really present with my family or friends, or you've lost that sparkle. All that different language is very connected to chronic stress because our brain is just not allowing it.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the people that come to me talk about being stuck or overwhelmed. Like those are the two big words
Yeah, or
that
what's
I
my
hear a lot.
purpose? I've lost my
Yeah,
purpose. What am I
yeah,
supposed to be doing now?
right,
And a lot of women, I don't know if you notice it with your clients, but a lot of women blame it on perimenopause, menopause, their period every month, hormones in general, or being a mom. I've lost myself as a mom, but what does mom have to do with that?
right,
Chronic cortisol levels are spiked, chronic hormones from having children are spiked. It's all hormone related,
right. That's what we
but
think,
that's what we think.
right? But it's more about what's going on with your brain.
Our nervous system reacts with hormones as well, and it's really neat because, like chronic cortisol spikes have a really big effect on our bodies, which directly affects our nervous system. And yeah, like having children is really hard on our bodies
Yeah,
hormonally. Chronic cortisol is a huge thing after having children, even like as toddlers or middle school kids. Like my my kids are um how old are they now? 10, 12, and 14. I don't want to think. But like they still stress me out. Like you but now being in this practice, um I'm able to like recognize, oh, I'm not having as much patience this morning. Let me regroup. Or like you're really giving me a hard time today. I'm going to go take some space. Like having that awareness.
yeah,
But like as toddlers and stuff, if you're not aware of how your body reacts to stress, you're going to be one of those like helicopter parents, no patience, strung out, like, I've
yelling
been
all the
there.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been there. It's bun on the
frustrated,
side of your head and you're just like coffee in hand. It's just I've been there.
running around like a maniac.
Yeah.
So, in the moment, I mean, this might be jumping the gun a little bit, but in the moment when you're having one of those days, either as a mom or in our case, sometimes in the veterinary hospital, there's a million things going on and you start to like cycle up and you either start to feel like you're dysregulated or you're going into a panic attack or you're just unhappy and things aren't going well because you feel this high level of stress. Is there something that you can do in that moment to start to kind of give yourself some emotional release or relief so
Yeah.
you can start to feel better?
So anyone new to this nervous system regulation, stress reset, I like to call it. I like to give a complimentary stress reset to anyone who's listened to the podcast. They can just message me a podcast on my website. I have a little chat,
Yeah.
and they can have a complimentary reset. And I teach you the most basic human calming. And the reason I say human calming is because it's related to heartbeat and breath. In our womb, as a fetus, we hear our mother's heartbeat. It is a calming sound and feeling. When we are out of the womb, when we hear our mother's heartbeat or we're placed on the chest, it is a natural, soothing thing. And even as an adult, I find when I give my loved ones a hug, and if I am having a hard moment, and I place my head on their chest, it's weird. It's that heartbeat. It's a soul calming experience. And breath is life. Breath is life source. So anyone new to this world, I like to call it my bathroom effect. And the reason I say this is because we're all so busy, but we all go to the bathroom, okay? And in the bathroom, we have the door closed and it's private. So
Yes.
in the bathroom, I want you to stand there once the door is closed and you're in your privacy. I want you to stand there and I want you to either close your eyes or I want you to stare at the tap, fixate on the tap. And you're going to put one hand on your heart and press into your chest so you can feel your heartbeat. and your other hand on your belly. And you're either going to fixate your eyes or close your eyes, and you're going to feel your belly go in and out, deep belly breaths. And you're just going to do that slow and steady for about a minute with your feet planted on the ground. And it is so simple, but it is so grounding at a soul level that after a minute to 2 minutes, you are reset, regrounded, your energy's kind of leveling out, and you can go about your day again. That little moment, from the data I've received from my clients, will reset you for about an hour. That teeny little moment. So you think about it, every time you go to the bathroom during the day, just do it. And that's starting to train your nervous system. It's kind of like, you want to run a marathon? Cool. Start walking a mile every day. You know what I mean? And so
Right.
it's like we need to like kick our nervous system into working again. And those little moments, every single time you go to the bathroom, heart, breath, close your eyes or fixate, do it for at least a minute. And it genuinely just like zens you out. And it's so simple. And honestly, at this point, some days I say I'm going to the bathroom, but I'm not to my kids.
Well, I always joke about that on the podcast. I've said it before that when I ran my veterinary hospital, that was about the only place you could go that nobody would bother you for a couple minutes.
Right?
When you're in charge and you're the doctor and they're all asking you questions and bombarding you and there's clients all over the place and phone calls, you really the only place you can go that they won't bother you for at least a few minutes. Sometimes they'll slide notes under the door if you're in there too long, but
Kids are
it
the
gives
same.
yeah, it gives you a little tiny bit of privacy. And so before I even knew about this kind of thing, before I started life coaching, that was kind of my go-to. I was like, when I would start to feel overwhelmed, I'd just like, even if I didn't have to use the bathroom, I'd just go in there and shut the door and
Yeah.
just kind of breathe and run my hands under cool water or whatever, just to kind of like get myself refocused and get a minute. So I think that's a beautiful example for mothers because usually moms can get away from the kids for a few minutes in the bathroom if they're old enough to be
Yeah.
unsupervised. You know, if they're really tiny, you might have to stick them in the playpen or something before you go in there. But
Oh, yeah.
just kind of understanding that it doesn't take a lot of time, but it's also so important when you start to get like wound up in your brain because you will then feel all those physical symptoms.
Yeah, and that's why I like to use, I'm really pushing this like bathroom effect because like we
Love that.
go
It's
we
so
go to the
simple.
bathroom all the time, and it's so
Sure.
simple. And then it's
Yeah.
like, whether you are a high achieving veterinarian or you're a strung out mom, like we've all been there. No
Hmm.
matter what walk of life, you
Right.
still get privacy in a bathroom.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you can start training your body on average, let's say you go to the washroom 10 times a day, like that's 10 minutes a day that you are resetting yourself, and that's 10 hours of grounding.
Right.
But it's so simple when you break it down. Do one
Yeah.
minute every single time you're in the washroom.
Yeah. And it takes practice, I think. I think the
Yeah.
fact that you said it'll get easier when you start to do it more often, I think is something we forget is we think we know we have to practice to do certain things like a marathon or working or doing a surgery or like we know that it takes practice, but for some reason we don't want to practice taking care of ourselves and taking care of our mental health and our bodies. And so I love when people like you say it's something you need to practice doing.
You need to practice, and you need to, I like to use the word selfish in a positive way. If you are not selfish in preserving the best version of you, how are you supposed to give to others, whether it's your family, your business, in your case, like animals, like saving animals? Like, how are you supposed to be on your best to make those decisions in a quick environment, highly stressful environment as a doctor? Like that, you need to be the best version of you.
Sure.
So if you don't put yourself first, even if it's for 1 minute every time you go pee. Like, then you're going to burn out. You're going to
Right.
constantly feel the same. And unfortunately, you're going to get worse because our bodies don't stop talking to us until we deal with it. So
Right.
it's just going to get louder and louder and louder until you have chronic mental health issues, until you have chronic conditions.
Yes. Physical conditions caused by
Yes.
mental stress, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's awful. Like we
Mhm.
all know high cortisol is there's so much data now around chronic health conditions due to high cortisol
Mm-hmm.
wreaking havoc in our bodies.
Yeah.
So to me, it is a non-negotiable for us to preserve our best selves to even do that 1 minute of breath work in the bathroom every single time you go to the bathroom.
Yeah. That's a great tip. And it works. I mean, you really can do it. We think we don't have time to do something simple like that, but it doesn't take more than a minute or two, and then you're much more efficient when you come out of there. Like you
Yeah,
can work twice as hard with half the amount of stress that you had a few minutes
it's
before.
just a reset, and
Yeah.
and it's also training our bodies at a internal level. And like even some people I've said, like, then put a sticky note in your office bathroom, like, do the breath work.
Just to remind yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, because we're in a rush and we're like, oh, I don't have time, but like, what's a minute? What's 1 minute?
Right. Well, and like I said, that 1 minute you're going to make up for when you're in a better mental space because you'll be able to make decisions faster. You'll be able to work
Hmm.
faster, more focused, more present if
Less
you can get yourself.
reactive.
Yes, less frustrated. Yeah. All
Yep.
so, um, in your bio, you talked about purpose. How do you bring that into this discussion? If you're feeling that you don't know what your purpose is, like what is that piece of it?
That really comes into play when we discuss our reflective state of when we are our best selves, and our purpose can change. So that's very
Sure.
unique. That's kind of a tough question because I can do a session with you and reflect back with you on your best version of yourself, or maybe you think you're in your best version now, but
Right.
there's always a calling of like, I'm really interested in this thing, but I don't have the means to do it, or I don't think I have the time to do it. And it's like, purpose is a calling. It's always a calling. We're either drawn to it for years, whatever it may be, or we're interested in it. And it's just like, hey, we just read up on it because it fascinates us. That is a purpose. And I help direct individuals, whether you are in a career change or you're in a transition of life in terms of motherhood to like now looking at career, or you just want a total life change because you're sick of running the rat race. Like, it's all about the individual and how their desires come out and their interests, and how to tie that into building a life around that.
Yeah, that is something that I've worked with people on, and I think when you're talking about purpose, it feels like such a huge topic, and I think sometimes people are afraid to try to work on that because they feel like they just don't know. They feel like there's so much going on that they can't control that they're like, I have no idea what my purpose is, and it feels like such an overwhelming thing to try to figure out.
It is overwhelming. It really is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but it isn't overwhelming if you have the right conversation with the right person.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, if you're listening, and this is something that is kind of speaking to you, like, reach out to one of us,
Hmm.
and just start that complimentary conversation of like, what direction do I go and how do I even figure that out?
Right.
What is it that I even want? Well, let's dive into that. Let's chat.
Yeah.
Have that conversation. And that's all it is. It's just
Yeah.
a conversation.
Well, it's kind of the process that you went through to get where you are doing what you're doing now because your life led you in this direction and you had to figure out that this is what you wanted to focus on. same thing with me is how I got into life coaching. Because if you would have asked me 15 years ago, what are you going to do when you're closer to retirement? I would never have said life coaching. I'd have no clue. So I think that if you are accepting to the process of working with someone, a coach, and getting the right coach that's kind of pushing you in the direction, not really to help you figure it out, but to just open up your brain to the possibility that you can figure it out.
The first step is just having that generalized conversation with someone who's been there before.
Yeah, absolutely. So, talk to us a little bit about, because you said you went through some of your own emotional abuse. Tell us a little bit about that. So, if people are out there that feel like they're either in that kind of situation or they have been in that situation, how did you work
Yeah.
your way out of that?
Well, my body was screaming at me. I didn't realize that my partner was gaslighting me. Um, everything that I had like would say or do, they made me feel bad about it. They isolated me. Um, they weren't physically abusive, but it was more about if I brought up something that upset me, it was always flipped back onto me.
Yeah, your fault.
Yeah, so chronic deflection. Um, and then projecting all of their stuff onto me. It was never, they were always like victim mode. And then when I was a victim in some situations, it was um said to me that it was because it was my doing,
Mm,
right? So there was always like everything that I said was upsetting me, or it was always because of their actions. But they were like, well, you made me do that action. It's
yeah,
like,
it kept boomeranging it back to you, huh?
yeah, I'm like, you are an adult. Like, you chose to do that action. I'm telling you it hurt me and it's my fault
Right.
because you did that action.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's but it's really hard to notice all of it when you're in it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I truly didn't notice all of it when I was in it until my body started yelling at me.
So that's what you're looking for. If you're in a situation like that and you're starting to feel like you're ill or your body isn't working the way you want it to, that there may be some emotional abuse that you're
100%.
internalizing. Okay. I
A,
just want people to, like, if they're in that situation, to know, like, what does that feel like? And then what do you do to get
well,
out of it?
with all of my clients, the common symptoms are gut health issues,
Mm, that's common.
anxiety. Um, if you're just feeling like you're on edge all the time with that person, heart palpitations was another big one.
Hmm.
Freeze. So if they're not even if even they don't even have to raise their voice at you, they can just say certain things to you and you just freeze. There's no fighting you left. Or the opposite is you fight,
Yeah.
right? So like fight, freeze, run.
Yeah. Flight.
Fawning, so like when you're really into like people pleasing and like, well, I'm if I do this more, maybe they'll be nicer to me and I'm gonna make them feel better about themselves so that I can get a better version of them. That's like
Yeah.
fawning
Trying to
essentially.
fix them.
Yeah. Or like another kind of fawn situation would be like I'm gonna make sure all the, like dinner's ready because I know that like if dinner's not ready when they get home, like that could
That'll be
trigger
a
an
trigger.
argument or like that's fawning. So it's like freeze, flight, and then fawning and then
Fight.
fight. So
Yeah.
like the arguments, the constant bickering. But yeah, the physical symptoms. Shaking is another big one with my clients. So like sometimes they're like really shaky or like your body just kind of gets shaky. Um, Disassociation, you just don't care anymore. Terrible sleeps, lack of hunger, overeating. So then there's weight gain, weight loss. Um, and then that that comes with other things like malnutrition. So you could have cavity issues now, or hair loss issues, or other issues. But the biggest things, I want to say anxiety, or like on edge, like kind of walking on eggshells, or like um, the chronic, just like gut health, because all of our emotions are built in our gut. So
Yes.
like brutally honest, like I'd be in the bathroom like half the day when my partner would be a jerk to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't put two and two together, but
Right.
it
Isn't
just
that
messed with
fascinating
my
that we don't?
stomach.
Yeah, because you're all worked up and then it messes
Yeah.
with your gut. Yeah.
So like on the outside, I'm like, whatever, I don't care. They always do this.
Right.
But I'm in the bathroom half the day.
Right. Thinking
So
that
like,
you're sick.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Me too.
so then I like now reflect back. I'm like, I had so much chronic gut health issues. Bloating. I was either bloating or like, yeah, like it was nuts.
Yeah.
And that's huge across the board with all my clients too.
Yeah. That's a really good thing to teach people about because we so often don't realize that a lot of the physical symptoms are emotional and mental in origin. And
Yeah.
I've been through that too. And you when you're in it, you have no idea.
No,
You're
even
just
like
thinking there's
muscle
got to be
pain,
something wrong with me. Yeah.
like my aches and pains.
Mm.
Well, like cortisol is probably through the roof.
Yeah.
You're probably depleted in other minerals and supplements because you're not taking care of yourself, because you're literally just trying to survive and you don't notice it because you wake up and do the same thing every day.
Right. Yeah. And you just think it's part of the deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what have we not talked about that we should before we get too close to the end of this? What have I not asked you
Um,
that you think is important to talk about?
with my, I just say this to everyone. With me having like lived through trauma, which is horrific, which I can't talk a lot about on here, paired with the science and evidence-based background, it is crucial for, if you don't know what your symptoms are because you've had them for so long, if you don't know what that is, if you know that something's off, or you're just not feeling like your best, find a coach. Get that one consultation in for free. Like I'm not sure about you, but I always like to do a complimentary, like,
Yeah, I have the
let's
same thing.
chat. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
because you can
have
see
that.
how it helps. Because
Yeah,
in one session you help people.
100%.
Hmm.
And every one of my clients have either quit all the other things and just stuck with me, quit therapy and stuck with me, because it's like, okay, let's tackle gut health, mental health, nervous system, physical health, like body composition, all the things. It's an all-in-one. Oh, you
Right.
want to also do some soul work? Absolutely. That's a part of it too. So
Yeah,
it's like, don't worry about the money. Like, worry about having that first conversation with a coach that has been in your shoes before.
right. Yeah, and kind of get a feeling for what's possible.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you're stuck in that situation where it's feeling like everything is overwhelming, you really don't think there is a possible way out.
No. And you
And
should
there
not
is.
don't make an action plan.
Right,
Just have one conversation.
right,
Because if you're that maxed out, trying to make an action plan and coming up with a grand plan of like what to do, how am I going to do it, where am I going to do it, blah blah blah, no, you're going to burn yourself out more.
right,
Just have that conversation with someone who you think has been there before.
right. And has worked their way through it. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And I try to remind people that it's a process. It's not like somebody will come and say, "Well, what do I do? How do I fix this?" And that's just more of the same.
It's
That
a band-aid solution.
right, yeah. You need
And
to
I'm
take
gonna
some
be
time.
bold, like, you can't do all that. You can do all the journaling in the world and all the meditation in the world and all the yoga in the world and all the teas and supplements and all the
Right,
things. It's not gonna help.
right.
You have to solve your nervous system.
Yeah.
And then those things help.
And all those things.
Then those things keep you regulated.
Yeah.
But you need to find your source and start regulating your nervous system, bringing down the cortisol, and then you bring all those tools in. And I think
Yeah.
that's what people forget.
Yeah. Well, and I think people also forget that they have the power.
Yeah, they control their outcome.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that,
Mind, body, soul, they
yeah.
control their outcome.
Because you feel so out of control when you're in that situation of overwhelm and burnout and all that. You feel so out of control, but it really is within your control. And I think if people can realize that, it's much easier to take an action step like making an appointment with you to sit down and talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, and that's what I say to all my clients, like it's just a conversation.
Hmm. Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't go further than that, but at least you got a couple tips to get you through the next month.
Right.
You
Right.
know, like,
Or a direction on something you can try. Yeah. I like,
yeah, because it doesn't have to be with you or I,
no,
but
there's so many
maybe they
people.
have a conversation with you or I, and we're like, you know what? This is what you should tackle first, and here's that direction.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
doing that for people. It doesn't always have to be with me,
No, no.
right?
Right. There's so many options. So tell people about the self-healing hub because I said in the intro that you have a 12-week process. So I'm assuming that's on your
Yeah.
website.
Yeah, so
Tell
my
us about
website,
that a
I
little
made
bit.
it super simple. It's www.hailey-coleman.com. I made it so that there's a little form. You put your name, email, and you can just put podcast in there in the comment. And I'm going to reach out to you personally. You'll get a complimentary session with me. And how I like to do it is you either can book one-off sessions with me as you need, and you can just like, I have a few strategies on how to work with you on different breath works and different things like that to start regulating your nervous system. But if you want to dive a bit deeper, 3 months, so 12 weeks is my minimum. That is where I've seen the most growth.
Hmm.
All of my clients have stayed longer, but that is my minimum because I want to see the changes with you. I want to work through the changes with you. In that 12 weeks, you get all of my tools and techniques. They're all ancient tools and techniques, in terms of um, breath work, movement, mindset. Um, and also on top of that, you also get 24/7 chat access. I don't accept, I have a max of how many I accept at a time because of the chat access.
Yeah.
But it is a signature offer of mine because I noticed when I first started working with individuals, they were like, "Well, I have a therapy session next week, but I'm really triggered today. I'm really struggling today." And then they go and brain dump to their therapist a week later, and it's
Yeah.
like, where's like the gap
Doesn't
that?
work.
Yeah, so I started implementing in my 12-week hub that you get me privately plus a 24/7 private chat access. So we get weekly phone calls plus the chat access plus access to all of my tools and techniques and studies. So
Sure.
um, it's it allows you to close that gap, and my clients will text me saying, today sucks, I'm really having a hard moment, this is what happened, and I'm right in there texting them, working them through it.
Right. It's awesome.
It's been like we collapse time on the healing journey with that. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. It really helps a lot. I think if people understood, and I know this is the way it is with your clients, if they understood that when you have a coach, it's really a personal relationship with somebody that's on your side.
Yep.
Like you're gonna promote them, you're going to hold them accountable, you're going to hold them up, you're going to cheer them on as they make their progress. And I think the people don't understand what the coaching relationship is different than a therapy relationship. You pay your
So
therapist,
different.
you talk to them, for 45 minutes or whatever, you get your bill, and then it's like boom till the next time you see them. With
Yep.
a coach, it's so much more intimate and personal. Even though it's confidential and all that. Like there's not they're not going to go out and spill your information to anyone. But it's just more of a, I don't want to call it a friendship, but it really is kind of like having a friend that understands what you're going through
Honestly, like
and has the techniques to help you.
maybe it's just me, but like all of my clients have become like my little besties.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I reach out to them like in between our sessions, like even if they're not having a bad day, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I thought of you," and like send them like little random
yeah,
texts and like
yeah. It's
yeah,
just a
it's a
great relationship.
relationship.
Yeah, it really is. It's very cool. So I always tell people on my podcast that if you've never had a coach and you don't even have to get a coach when you're struggling, it's just try it.
Yeah.
Most coaches will allow you to get one free session. Like you could go to 20 life coaches and never have to pay.
Literally. But like
Yeah,
even like
but you
with
need a
my stuff,
relationship.
like you don't need to be suffering. You don't even need to be wanting to work on nervous system work. Like
Right.
we can work on gut health. We can
Sure.
work on mindset. We can
Mhm.
work on building a new career because you want
Right.
more confidence and boundaries and encouragement.
Yes, yeah, it is. That's the thing. I think that's why people don't understand why it's called life coaching is because you can coach on anything.
Literally anything.
The techniques work for everything, and that's what's fascinating about it. Yeah. So, any last words? Anything else we should say before we close this down?
Um yeah, to wrap it up, reach out. Get your complimentary session. Put podcast in the little comment on my website and do the bathroom breathwork technique.
Do
It
that
is
today. Everyone go in
awesome.
the bathroom after you listen to this
Literally,
podcast.
everyone
Go do it.
go to the washroom and do it because it's like it will fully reset you. It is such a beautiful experience in the washroom, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's hilarious, but
Well,
awesome.
I think it's funny that you say that because I've said that for years on the podcast that that's what I used to do is use the bathroom
Yeah.
as my reprieve from my hospital and even from my kids at home. Because as soon as if you're a working person at work, everybody's after you. And then the
Yep.
minute you walk in the door at home, then the kids are after you and everybody's after you. And there is no peace. So the bathroom is the only place.
Like I said, sometimes I'm not even going to the washroom. Sometimes I'm just like faking it
You're
and just
just
stay.
hiding, right? You're just hiding for a few minutes. I love that.
Yeah.
I did that all the time. I love that.
Right?
All right, so everybody, this is Hailey Coleman. I really appreciate you being here today. It was a lot of fun to meet you and hear about your work, and I'm excited for people out there to get coached. I say that every week on the podcast, but I want it to be true. I want everyone to have a coach.
Yeah. Reach out, go to my website, send me a message on saying it's from a podcast. And yeah, I'm excited to meet everyone and go
Yeah, it's
from there.
awesome. All right, so everybody, thanks for listening, and thanks, Hailey, and have a beautiful week, everyone. Bye.